to finance COVID operations overseas.
You know, when all of this busts wide open,
Yeah, listen.
everyone's gonna see the truth. And I hope someone will say,
We fucked up. You go over to China. China. You take China. China. I love them. China. I have to have my China. China because China now. China. You know, China.
I know China very well. China.
Northwest Wisconsin, where I'm from.
It's China to me. China. You want to buy from China? That's great. Buy from China. Buy toys from China. China in particular. China. I have people that I know in China. China. I've been saying China. China.
Let me ask you about China.
I go to China. China. People from China, they love me.
Right.
China. In China, they say I don't like China. I love China. People think I don't like China. I love China. China is the new China, by the way. China. I deal with China. China. Big league China. So don't tell me about China. I know China. China. Whether it's China. So if you went to China and you wanted to get a job in China, I don't knock China. How could I dislike China? The man from China. Yep. China, Carl, take China. China's over here. Look at what China's doing. They're learning from China. China. Okay, look at that. Isn't that nice? China. And by the way, I lost the election. I'm okay with it. Seriously, the county has refused to produce the network routers. We want the routers, Sonny. The county refused to produce the network routers. Wendy, we gotta get the routers, please. The routers. Come on, Kelly, we can get those routers. Wow. If you got those routers, what that will show. And they don't want to give up the routers. They are fighting like hell. Why are these commissioners fighting to do the routers? How simple could it be? That will tell the truth. And they don't want to give up the routers. What are they trying to hide? And I say it, because the easiest way of cheating is to go on the water. That's easier. The county has refused to produce the network routers. We want the routers, Sonny. The county refused to produce the network routers. Wendy, we gotta get those routers, please. It's so unfair. It's so ridiculous. I'll be honest though, look, we all like to win. If I lost this election, I could handle it pretty easily. Weather 24, sir, you're gonna win. And I said, wait a minute, I said 6 months ago. The big lie, they call it. Those claims are unproven.
Who is it?
And knowing what happened in the election is a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
The county has refused to produce the network routers.
You're 2 hours late.
I know. It's her fault.
You got the money?
$2,000.
Hold up.
Hallelujah. You're my savior, man. My own personal Jesus Christ.
You get caught using that.
Yeah, I know. This never happened. You don't exist.
Right.
Something wrong, man? You look a little whiter than usual.
My computer, You ever have that feeling where you're not sure if you're awake or still dreaming?
All the time. It's called mescaline. It's the only way to fly. Hey, look, it just sounds to me like, you need to unplug, man. Get some R&R? Hey, what do you think, DeShore? Should we take him with us?
Definitely.
I can't. I have work tomorrow.
Come on. It'll be fun. I promise.
Yeah. Sure. I'll go.
He was the most notorious insurrectionist at the Capitol, the QAnon shaman, in buffalo horns and a coyote headdress, carrying a spear. Look at him today. Jacob Chansley is behind bars at a detention center in Virginia, defending his role in the January 6th riot.
My actions were not an attack on this country. That is incorrect. That is inaccurate entirely.
He spoke exclusively to Laurie Siegel for 60 Minutes Plus, seen on the new streaming service Paramount Plus. Is he sorry at all for what he did?
He says he regrets going into that building with every fiber of his being.
Chansley was caught on camera sitting in Vice President Mike Pence's chair in the Senate chamber, leaving this ominous note.
It's only a matter of time. Justice is coming.
And leading his fellow insurrectionists in prayer.
In Christ's holy name we pray.
Well, I sang a song, and that's a part of shamanism. It's about creating positive vibrations in a sacred chamber. I also stop people from stealing and vandalizing that sacred space, the Senate. Okay.
He also put forward the muffin defense.
Actually stop somebody from stealing muffins out of the break room.
He genuinely believed that Donald Trump was going to be there and be there with them. And as he said, quote, had his back. He talked about being devastated when he didn't receive a pardon from Donald Trump. He believed that he was going to get a pardon.
60 Minutes Plus also spoke to the shaman's mother, Martha.
Do you see anything wrong with what your son did?
What do you mean by wrong? Wrong? He went through open doors. He was escorted into the Senate. So I don't know what's wrong with that.
This is our nation, not theirs. Yeah.
The takeover of the Senate as it happened.
Just get a snap of that.
Yeah, I took a picture. The mob storms into the building. Go! From here on, it's chaos in the corridors of power.
Whose house? Defend your liberty! Yeah. Defend your Constitution!
The invaders find their way into the magnificent Senate chamber, where something extraordinary takes place. They start rifling through the desks of America's lawmakers.
There's gotta be something in here we can use against this.
Up in the gallery, Jake Angeli, the suspect with the buffalo horns, makes his presence known. He makes it to the floor and has the nerve to take a seat at Vice President Mike Pence's dais.
This is like the sacredest place.
A single cop is alone and completely outnumbered.
1, 2, 3, 4.
He's doing the right thing.
1.
Is this a center? Where the fuck are they? We are war, okay? You have to understand it's an IO war. We can't lose the IO war. We're better than that. Information operation.
There's gotta be something
of all the doubt, all the uncertainty, all the frustration, all the confusion, we must never lose sight of the parts of life that we're absolutely clear about. The parts of life that bring us undeniable and reliable joy. These are sacred. They give us strength. They give us pure physical and emotional energy. And that purely good feeling that tells us that life really is worth living, even when it's hard. The truest part of ourselves is found inside the clarity of this feeling. This feeling is the life force. It lives inside the undeniable love that we have for the people and aspects of life that bring out the best we have to offer. Let this love define us. Let our spirit be fortified by this loving clarity. This love is our destiny, and our ultimate quest is to protect it, to amplify it, and to rejoice in sharing its power with all the world.
This is the moment for you to show us what is real right now. You believe it's 6:27 p.m. But that couldn't be further from the truth.
Sorry about what happened with Fury. Messed up what happened to him. Thank you.
Not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Records.
Confirmed.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Follow me, and we will bring the whole fucking system down. I am honorable, and you can ask any Marine who served with me for 17 years. I dare you to ask them all and find out what I'm made of. We're just getting started.
We have pizzas, we have 300 hamburgers, many French fries, all of our favorite foods.
Monsters exist, but they are far too few in number to be truly dangerous. The most dangerous monsters are ordinary men and women, ready to believe and obey without asking questions. Is a peaceful and prosperous society dependent on strict obedience to the laws and dictates of the state? Is voting the only proper means to show displeasure with the commands of politicians and bureaucrats? While school systems and the mainstream media try to indoctrinate us with an obedient mindset, and while politicians desire an almost blind obedience from the populace, history tells a different story about the value of always doing what we are told. In this video, we are going to discuss why obedience, not disobedience, is the greatest threat to mankind.
I don't know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter
you know,
got
Bo.
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true.
44-year-old Hunter Biden, Vice President Joe Biden's youngest son, was discharged from the Navy Reserve after testing positive for cocaine. Hunter was commissioned in May 2013 and assigned a coveted position as a public affairs officer in Norfolk, Virginia. But U.S. officials confirm the very next month after reporting to his unit, Biden was given a routine drug test, which he failed.
Cocaine use, and he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son,
fortune.
my son,
and he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right, but he
dollars?
wasn't given tens of millions of dollars. That is totally.
For one great shocking occasion, thinking that others, when such a shock comes, will join with you in resisting somehow. But the one great shocking occasion, when tens or hundreds of thousands will join with you, never comes.
If the last and worst act of the whole regime had come immediately after the first and smallest, thousands, yes, millions would have been sufficiently shocked. But of course, this isn't the way it happens. In between comes all the hundreds of little steps, some of them imperceptible, each of them preparing you not to be shocked by the next. And one day, too late, your principles, if you were ever sensible of them, all rush in upon you, and you see that everything has changed. Now you live in a world of hate and fear, and the people who hate and fear do not even know it themselves. When everyone is transformed, no one is transformed.
I've had dreams that weren't just dreams. Am I crazy?
Oh, I went live from the wrong account, so redo.
Protesters, they tried to burn it down, but I walked to the church, protesters out there, and Millie was walking with me. And the next day, the radical left media starts calling, you shouldn't have walked, you shouldn't have walked. Instead of saying, I'm proud to walk with my president, not because it's me, because of the office. Instead of saying that, he wanted to apologize for walking with the president of the United States. And I said, this guy doesn't have what it takes, and you're seeing that now, because the worst decisions I've ever seen. That's, again, why I put the patent. I just remembered it as I was coming over here. I said, get that clip quickly. The people of Alabama understand that clip. Do you think that... Let me ask you, do you think that General Patton was woke? I don't think so. What do you think, Mike? Mike, was he woke? I don't think so. I don't think he was too woke. He was the exact opposite. You know what woke means? It means you're a loser. Everything woke. Everything woke. It's true. Everything woke turns to shit, okay? It's true. It's true. Look at what's happening.
Radio.
All right, we're looking at Luke, ladies and gentlemen, the Gospel of Luke today. And I thought I'd go from chapter 21 here and just sort of read along. These are Jesus' words. I have a red letter edition, so it's all, gives you the red letter version in big print so that these old eyes can read it, So I'm going to try to read this to you here. And he looked up and he saw the rich men casting their gifts into the treasury, and he saw also a certain poor widow casting in thither 2 mites. And he said, "Of a truth I say unto you, that this poor widow hath cast in more than they all."
Let me ask you about QAnon. It is this theory that Democrats are a satanic pedophile ring and that you are the savior of that. Now, can you just once and for all state that that is completely not true and that disavow QAnon in its entirety?
I know nothing about QAnon.
I just told you.
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact. I hate to say that. I know nothing about it. I do know they are very much against pedophilia. They fight it very hard, but I know nothing about it.
They believe it is a satanic cult run by the deep state.
Subject. I'll tell you what I do know about. I know about Antifa, and I know about the radical left, and I know how violent they are and how vicious they are, and I know how they're burning down cities run by Democrats, not run by Republicans.
Republican Senator Ben Sasse said, quote, "QAnon is nuts, and real leaders call conspiracy theories conspiracy theories."
He may be
Why
right.
not just say it's crazy and not true?
He may be right. I just don't know about QAnon.
You do know.
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know.
Let me ask you another thing.
Let's waste a whole show. You start off with white supremacy. I denounce it. You start off with something else. Let's go. Keep asking me these questions.
I do have one more in this vein.
Let me just tell you, what I do hear about it is they are very strongly against pedophilia. And I agree with that. I mean, I do agree with that, and I agree with it.
But there's not a satanic pedophile
cult being run by. I know nothing about that.
You don't know that? Okay.
No, I don't know
you
that.
Just this
neither
week.
do you know that.
Okay, just this week.
Why aren't you asking me about Antifa? Why aren't you asking me about the radical left? Why aren't you asking Joe Biden questions about why doesn't he condemn Antifa? Why doesn't he say it doesn't exist?
Because you're here to
You got the White House protected by the government killers. We got the crack house protected by the neighborhood dealers. Opportunity ain't never knocked. Yeah, they be locking niggas up and slinging petty rocks. If you could answer my questions, I wouldn't stress. That's why niggas smoke crack, snorт coke, hit the weed when they stress. Niggas die in the ghetto, put their face on the shirt. White folks get killed and it's a citywide search. Don't just holler at a nigga when you need a vote. My little homie got 20 for weed and coke. Nigga cross my heart and hope to die. I'm begging for change, but only you can take the tears out my people's eyes. Dear Mr. President, my letter to the President, 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 Dear Mr. President. You heard me? We're trying to unite. We're trying to make it better, but we need some help. You know, I got lucky, but I come from a place where most of my people, they ain't faulty, you know what I'm saying? I mean, drugs and gunplay is a must. People hungry out here, they starving. Only time I tell when we go from here though, Mr. President, and only God can judge us. But you know what? With all the problems that you going through and trying to run the country, I know it must be stressful. But you know what? We feel your pain out here in the hood. We just hope these words reach to you and you can do something about our pain in the ghetto. P.S. Master P, the last dime to the realest nigga I know, the president. Nigga.
All thinking. The use of signs, words, symbols, numbers to represent what's going on in the external world or the world of nature. It leads us into a curious confusion that we confuse the symbolic process with the actual world. I'm always hoping, always thinking that the next time will be it. And this, of course, is an eternal illusion. It's much better. Actually, one would be much happier to think that the future is simply deteriorating. I can explain that very simply. Human beings are largely engaged in wasting enormous amounts of psychic energy in attempting to do things that are quite impossible. You know, as the proverb says, you can't lift yourself up by your own bootstraps. But recently, I've heard a lot of references in just general reading and listening, where people say, we've got to lift ourselves up by our own bootstraps. You are not going to improve and the
you
world.
can't.
And you are not
And you
going
can
to
struggle
improve
and
yourself
tug and pull
till you're blue in the face, and nothing happens except that you exhausted yourself. You are just... All sensible people, therefore, begin.
This
in
is as
life
close as
with
we can
two
get to the base of the
fundamental
World Trade Center.
presumptions.
You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way!
I have a tape of a BBC reporter broadcasting directly back to England talking about a third building has collapsed. World Trade Center Building 7 talks for 7 minutes. All the while she's talking, World Trade Center Building 7 is still standing right behind her. It didn't fall for another half hour. Yet they were doing a pre-broadcast back to England that, yes, it's true,
you need to
that
take a
this
break.
building fell and it hadn't fallen
If
yet.
you're trying to make out the British Broadcasting Company, one of the most respected news organisations in the world, was inventing huge buildings falling over, you
They
need to have a
did.
you need to have a break, Jesse. We'll come back after the break and we'll talk about
kidding me?
Israel
Are
and
you
Iran.
kidding me?
The security measures incorporated into our
measures
lives
the individual
are
portion.
both sources of comfort
What's the dosage?
and reminders of our
0.01
vulnerability.
milliliters.
And we have seen growing
Very
evidence
potent substance.
that the dangers to
We've
our country
improved our
come not
distillation
only
process
across
over the
borders,
years. This one barrel
but from
contains over
violence
4
that
billion
gathers
doses.
within.
Splendid.
There is little cultural overlap between violent extremists abroad and violent extremists at home.
Jack, I'll tell you what I do know about. I know about Antifa, and I know about the radical left, and I know how violent they are, and how vicious they are, and I know how they're burning down cities run by Democrats, not run
We
by
are
Republicans.
children of the same foul spirit, and it is our continuing duty to confront them.
I thought that President Bush made a really good speech today.
Of course you did.
Genuinely good speech about who we are.
I don't know who any of you are. How do I? I don't even remember who I am.
The great people of our country, this is a very sad day. September 11th represents great sorrow for our country. Many things were displayed that day, including, most importantly, the bravery of our police, fire, and first responders of every kind. The job they did was truly unbelievable. We love them and we thank them. It is also a sad time for the way our war on those that did such harm to our country ended last week. The loss of 13 great warriors and the many more who were wounded should never have happened. Overall, 250 people were killed in Afghanistan last week, and so many more were seriously injured. We had $85 billion of the finest and most sophisticated military equipment taken from us without even a shot being fired. The leader of our country was made to look like a fool, and that can never be allowed to happen. It was caused by bad planning, incredible weakness, and leaders. This is the 20th year of this war, and should have been a year of victory and honor and strength. Instead, Joe Biden and his inept...
I told you. Betty, bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone? I like these calm little moments before the storm. It reminds me of Beethoven. Can you hear it? It's like when you put your head to the grass, you can hear it crawling. You can hear the insects. Do you like Beethoven? Couldn't really say. I'm gonna play you some.
Well, it seems like our intuitions are not without foundation. Right now, things are being revealed to us at a breakneck speed. The moon landing's being fake. Check WikiLeaks for that. Distraction after distraction. The election is very important. Our Constitution is very important. The outcome on the 6th is very important. However, there's something greater. It seems that our country is at war, possibly. With whom? It's hard to say. The attacks on U.S. soil in Colorado, Baltimore, Rochester, New York, Tennessee. Attacks on our infrastructure, internet services, gas going down. Next, it could be the grid. Maybe that's what the bigger thing is here. Maybe it's something like that, where the dark winter is going to be upon us. Keep your head on a swivel.
In the face of great challenges this year, Americans showed incredible grit, strength, tenacity, and resolve. And together we achieved truly historic victories like nobody ever thought possible. To defeat the China virus, we launched the largest mobilization since World War II. We transformed our factories to build tens of thousands of ventilators and millions of masks virtually overnight. Nobody thought it could be done. We ignored the protect our citizens, and we built the wall. We pioneered groundbreaking new therapies and treatments, and we saved millions of Americans.
And he knows that the advantage, Donald Trump knows that the advantage in life, in business, and in wartime goes to the competitor that does not flinch and does not broadcast his game plan.
That what the ancients were trying to tell us is that Earth is actually made up of two planets, one 6,000 years old and the other 4.5 billion years old. And these two Earths are of different energy states. One is a very high energy state, one a low energy state. In the scriptures, they're called a spirit Earth and a temporal Earth. One day, this day, right now, the 21st century, they would come apart.
Now, what do you mean come apart? Physically?
Yes. Physically, the higher vibrational Earth would become dissident with the lower vibrational Earth, and they would separate, just like the human spirit separates from the human body. Earth is about ready to either go through birth or go through death.
I know that John Roberts of Fox News came out immediately and said, I'm not the John Roberts on there. I've never met Jeffrey Epstein, don't know anything about him. Has Justice John Roberts told you that? Has anybody in the media said, well, there's a lot of John Roberts. I don't think a lot of John Roberts were on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. People of power and influence were, and a lot of them. And one day the truth's going to come out about all of those people and what they were doing on that jet and on that island. But the question's a fair one to ask. The Chief Justice of the United States of America. Raise your right hand, tell us the truth, Justice Roberts. You on Jeffrey Epstein's plane? If he says no, well, thanks for answering the question. If he says yes, we got a problem in America at the Supreme Court level. We need answers. All America wants is truth. All America wants is the truth about this election.